Good morning, everyone. I apologise for the quality of my voice. There's not much of it left at the moment, but I shall go on whispering as best I can into the microphone. Well, welcome to today's hearing. We're going to hear further witnesses, further evidence from those who were present in the tower at the time of the fire. Yes?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Can I, with your permission, call our first witness of the day, Meron Mekonnen?
Yes, thank you.
I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Sit down and make yourself comfortable. Yes, Mr. Waller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you comfortable?
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
Could you give the inquiry your full name, please?
Meron Mekonnen.
Ms. Mekonnen, the first thing I want to do is to thank you for coming to give evidence today. We're already very grateful for the witness statement that you've given us, but also for your willingness to come and continue to help the inquiry in this way. Everyone here does understand how difficult it will be to have to go back and relive the events of the night. It is important that as you give your evidence to take your time, don't feel under any pressure. And if you need a break at any time, please say so and we'll stop. Hopefully, I'll try and keep my questions short and straightforward. But if I do ask you something that sounds confusing or that you can't understand, then just let me know and I'll put it in a different way.
Okay.
I think you're already aware that the focus of the questions today is going to be about the night of the fire. And that's what I'm going to ask you about. It's what the inquiry has been calling phase one.
Okay.
What I want to do first, though, is go through some formalities. And first thing we have to do is just look at your witness statement, please. It's IWS 50912. Ms. Mekonnen, this is the first page of the statement that you've provided for this inquiry. I think you've got it there on the monitor in front of you, but also
Yes.
if you need it, you should find a bundle just in front of you on the table,
Okay.
and it'll be at tab 1. Could we go to page 20 of the statement, please? We can see from page 20 that the statement is dated the 23rd of May 2018, and it's signed. Could you confirm that that's your signature?
Yes, it is.
And have you had a chance to read your statement recently?
Yes, I have.
Can you confirm that the contents of the statement are true?
Yes, they are.
What we now need to do is to put the exhibits to the statement into the record. Now, if I just explain that these are photographs and a video taken on the night and outside the tower, for this purpose, we don't actually need to put any of them up. I just want to read it into the record. They are collectively your exhibit MM1, and the references are IWS 449, IWS 451, IWS 452, and IWS 453. Now, before I go on, what I would also just like to make clear for the benefit of everyone here is that as we go through, we may need to look at some photographs that were taken of the tower, including after the fire. And I mention that now because we appreciate that photographs of that sort can be distressing to some people. And so I hope everyone is aware of that possibility. Can I start with some background, please? If we go back to the first page of your statement, and can we expand paragraphs 3 and 4, please? Now, in June 2017, your home was flat 163 on the 19th floor of Grenfell Tower. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And how long had you been living in that flat?
Since 2012?
And by June 2017, your family was you, your partner, and your 2 children.
That's correct.
And is it right that you have 2 daughters?
Yes, that's correct.
And one of them at that time was age 6,
Yes,
and one was age 4.
yes.
Did you have a tenancy for the flat?
Tennessee?
Yes.
Yes, I was a tenant.
And who was that tenancy with?
TML, Kensington and Chelsea?
Thank you. Can we now move, please? I'm afraid we're going to jump around a little bit in your statement, but I just want to take you to paragraphs 75 and 76, which are on page 12 of the statement. I won't read the paragraphs out, but just to give you some context, Ms. Mekonnen, what you're talking about here is your knowledge of the stay-put policy in the tower and also fire safety notices.
Yes.
I want to show you a photograph now, which is a photograph that's taken after the fire occurred. And so I'm just going to give a specific warning for anyone in the room if they want to leave at this point. But I think, Mr. Chairman, observing the room, no one has taken that opportunity. So can we have, please, BLA 402416? Could we rotate it, please? If I could explain to you, Ms. Mekonnen, this is a photograph of a notice that was sighted between the lifts on floor 3. So it's a different floor from the one that you lived on. But in your statement, you say, I had also read a notice next to the lift, which was in English only, and it stated there was a stay-put policy in the tower and explained the policy. Is this the notice that you remember seeing?
Yes.
Do you remember seeing a notice like this between the lifts on your floor?
On my floor, yes.
Now, we know from other witnesses and other evidence that most people, when they came into the tower on a normal day, would get into the lift on the ground floor. Do you remember seeing a notice by the lifts on the ground floor?
I don't remember.
We go back, please, to your statement, again to page 12, and can we have paragraph 78? If we just look at that statement, please, Ms. Mekonnen, what you say is, on the Saturday before the fire, a firefighter came to my flat and checked the smoke alarm in the hallway of our flat. We'd just come home with the girls, and both Johannes and I were in and out of our bedrooms sorting the girls out, whilst the firefighter was in the hallway. He did not test the smoke alarms. Instead, he pointed to the light on the alarm in the hallway and told me and my partner that the light confirmed that the alarm was connected to the main system. He did not check the smoke alarm in the kitchen. The firefighter also informed me during this visit that there was a stay-put policy in the tower. The firefighter explained to me that this meant that we should remain in our flat in the event of a fire in the tower, unless the fire was in our flat. They also advised me not to use the lifts during a fire. So if we take that in stages, was this firefighter the only firefighter you saw on that day?
He's the one who came into the flat, but there was also another firefighter out in the lobby. I think it was 2 of them, if I remember.
And did you see what the firefighter in the lobby was doing?
I'm not completely sure, no.
Did the firefighter tell you which fire station he was from?
No, I don't remember that.
Did he give you a name or anything at all, or?
Probably, but I don't remember.
And did he tell you why he was visiting?
To check the smoke alarms.
And did he say where he was going to be checking the smoke alarms?
I don't remember that, but he just walked into the flat. As soon as he got into the hallway, in the corridor, he noticed the smoke alarm and then just looked up and pointed and said, yeah, it's connected to the mains. That's all I remember.
And so was it just a spontaneous visit? He just turned up outside your door?
Yes, that's I believed, because we didn't have any notice before that to say they were coming or anything. There was a knock on the door and we just let them in.
And you say he told you about the light in relation to the hallway smoke alarm. Did he say anything about the kitchen smoke alarm?
No.
And just so that we can be clear, in your flat, were those the two smoke alarms that you had?
Yes.
So there was one in the kitchen, one in the hallway?
Yes.
Now, if we take it that by that Saturday,
Yeah.
You were aware of the notice that was by the lifts.
Yes.
You also had advice, hadn't you, in the past from the TMO about there being a stay-put policy. Is that right?
Yes.
And you then had the information from the firefighter.
Yes.
Now, we'll come to the action you took on the night of the fire in a moment, but did any of this have any influence on what you did on the night of the fire?
I mean, even though I knew the advice is to stay put, I just want to point out as well, like from the TMO, I wasn't informed formally. It was always me asking, because I was never completely happy with the stay put policy. So that's why I kept, even the firefighter that came on Saturday, I asked him, what do you think we should do in case of a fire living on the 19th floor? The same with the TMO, I was always asking, and they gave me the same answer. But I was never happy with the answer. It always made me feel uncomfortable to stay in my flat knowing there's on the 19th floor, knowing there's a fire in the building. So that day I didn't take the advice, so I decided to leave.
And what you said, you were uncomfortable because you were on the 19th floor.
Yes.
So what was it particularly about where you were that made you concerned?
I guess because we only have one stairwell, very confined. I've always noticed there's no ventilation in the stairwell. If I thought about in case smoke got in there as well, because it's something that always worried me, and I thought about if we get into the stairwell, if there's smoke, we won't be able to leave. I know we can't use the lift during fire, and being so high up, I know there's no way a ladder can reach that far up to rescue us. So it was always a thought I had from the day I moved in. It was my concern being up so high with young children. So those were my thoughts, I suppose.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can I take you back to your statement? Just take you back now to paragraph 81, please. And if I just draw your attention to the first couple of sentences in that paragraph, you say, I know that the communal fire alarm did not go off on the night of the fire. I had always believed there was a communal fire alarm in the tower, as I had heard it once in 2013 before the refurbishment works in the tower started. We were out when the alarm in 2013 had gone off, and we only heard it still going when we returned home to the tower. It was a loud standard alarm noise, and there were several fire engines outside. The fire brigade informed us that it was a false alarm when we arrived back in the building. I never heard it go off again after 2013, even on the night of the fire that destroyed the building. So from that experience, you could say that in 2013 there was a communal fire alarm that you could hear.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And was it one that you could hear throughout the building?
Yeah, we heard it from on the street. We was outside coming home. We've been out coming home. That's when we heard it. We was already was by Grenfell Grenfell Road when we heard it. We weren't not even near the building yet. It was very loud.
Now, we obviously know, and you cover this in your statement, that there was a refurbishment of
Yes.
the tower.
Yeah.
Did anyone tell you that a communal alarm system had been fitted after the refurbishment?
No.
I just want now to ask you a few questions about your flat in June 2017.
Okay.
And to do that, if I could take you down to the next page on your statement, page 14, and let's look at paragraph 82. Again, Ms. Mekonnen, I won't read it out to you, but I'll just try and summarise it. But in that paragraph, you refer to concerns over your front door. Were you provided with a new front door as part of the refurbishment?
No.
So this was the front door that you'd had?
From when I moved in, yeah.
And you say in this paragraph that it was missing the automatic door closing mechanism, which meant it did not shut automatically after being opened, and it was very light.
Yes.
Taking you to June 2017, was the door still missing the automatic door closing mechanism at that time?
Yes.
And you say it didn't shut automatically. What would you have to do to make sure that the door was properly shut?
If I was going out, then I would have to pull it shut.
And was it a case of having to pull it hard to close it?
No.
Or?
It was quite light. It wasn't hard, no.
Again, if we jump a little bit forward in your statement and go to page 16, please. Paragraph 96. Again, I'm not going to read the whole paragraph out, but in this paragraph, what you're dealing with is a concern in relation to gaps around the windows. And you say that we had drafts coming in through the gaps around all of the windows after they were replaced, and on really windy days, you could hear a whistling sound inside our flat. And what you explained then is that Ryden, the contractors, came in and sealed the gap. But you also, and that's in the next paragraph, if we look at 97, on the next page, please. What you say is that you had to use sellotape to block and stop the draft in my bedroom and in my daughter's bedroom. Again, taking you back to June 2017, were there still gaps around the windows in your flat at that time?
Yes.
Could we have, please, reference MET 3012593 and go to page 12 of that? If I could just explain this diagram to you, Ms. Mekonnen. It's an outline of the layout of the fourth floor, as you can see. But that would match the layout of the higher floors, including the 19th floor where you lived. So if we could expand on flat 3 in the bottom left-hand corner, please. That would, because it's a flat 3, that would approximate to or match the layout of your own flat 163. Do you follow that?
Yeah.
Now, what we can see is that the windows on that diagram in each of the 2 bedrooms have been marked with a horizontal blue line. So can you see there are 2 windows, 1 for each bedroom?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you've got 4 windows on the 2 sides of the living room and 1 in the kitchen.
Yes.
Now, just so that we can be sure, would that match the number of windows that you had in flat 163?
Yes.
Now, can you, using that and taking yourself back to June 2017, can you identify which windows had gaps around them?
Almost all of them. All of them did, but the one in the kitchen was the worst, and the ones in the bedroom.
All right, well, let's take that in stages then. Yeah. You've got the one in the kitchen. Can you describe what the problem was with the kitchen window?
With the kitchen window, after they've completed the refurbishment, they've done the windows. There was a lot of draft coming in, a lot of wind was coming in, and there was a lot of whistling noise. And I went to check around the window, and at the bottom of the window ledge, there was a big gap. It wasn't a tiny gap. I can literally put my hands through it. And they had to come, and they complained. And they came, but they did just sealed it with foam kind of expanding foam kind of material, and a sealant. And then even after that, it was never sealed properly. I can still feel drafts, a lot more drafts as well.
So, again, if we focus on in June of 2017, so yeah. You've got a window that's been sealed.
Yeah.
The gap has been, the foam has been put into the gap that you identified. It's been sealed. Was that a window in which you had to use sellotape?
The one I had to use sellotape is the bedrooms.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll come to the bedroom in a moment.
Okay.
Let's stick to the kitchen.
And just so we understand, these are gaps underneath the window.
The kitchen had gaps underneath.
Yeah.
The bedrooms, they had drafts coming in from the side of the windows of the frame. The gaps wasn't very big, but on a windy day you can really feel the breeze coming in. It used to feel really cold. That's where I put the sellotapes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So going back to the kitchen, what were the drafts like in 2017 in the kitchen?
It wasn't. It's still drafty. It wasn't as bad. You can only feel it on windy days, I suppose. But there was still drafts coming in. And
again, just so that we can be clear, on those windy days, where were the drafts coming in?
On the frame of the windows. So the bottom part of the frame and on the side of the frame. All the windows actually had drafts coming in on the side of the frames. All the windows. But the one in the kitchen was a bit more, and the bedroom was a bit stronger as well.
And you told us a few moments ago that you had to put sellotape in the bedrooms.
Because it's difficult to sleep when there's drafts coming in. Sometimes we had a very warm flat. Generally, it's very hot, so you can really feel the breeze coming in, and it's very difficult to sleep when you can feel the cold air in your face all the time. So that's why I put the sellotapes in the bedroom.
And was that still what you were doing in June 2017?
Yes, it was like that with the sellotapes. Yeah.
Okay, I told you we would jump around your statement, so we're going to jump back to page 11. So it's, Mr. Documents Director, it's IWS 911211, please. And if we could just look at paragraph 68. What you've said in that statement, this paragraph, Ms. Mekonnen, is I started to notice problems with the electricity, particularly in the 6 months leading up to the fire. I was replacing the light bulbs in the flat every few weeks. That's in your flat, and obviously there is a communal area on each floor, isn't there, where the lifts are?
Yes.
What were the lights like in that area? Did you ever notice any problems with those?
Not in the communal area, no.
In your statement, we won't go back to it. We can look at it if you need us to. But you mentioned that when you first moved into the flat, there were problems with water pressure.
Yes.
Again, taking you to 2017, were you experiencing water problems with water pressure at that time?
Once they've changed, what happened? No, once the new boiler was fitted, actually we had a little bit more pressure.
And so that wasn't an issue anymore for you?
No.
Thank you. What I'd like to do now is just take you to the 13th of June. You happy to continue?
Yes.
Thank you. Can we have page 2 of the statement, please, and paragraphs 9 to 12? In this part of your statement, Ms. Mekonnen, you've described the early part of the evening, and you say that in paragraph 10 you say it was a normal evening as far as I was concerned. So you and your partner, you and your daughters got home around 5 or 6 that night. You stayed home all evening, and your partner was at work that evening. Is that right?
Yes.
And you say in paragraph 11, the lights in our hallway and my bedroom were buzzing and flickering that evening. But this was something which had been going on for at least a couple of months, and I did not think anything of it. Now, on the 13th of June, what was the temperature like in the communal area on the 19th floor? On the 13th of June, sorry, I'm going to ask that question again,
Yeah,
I apologise. But taking you that evening, you'd come home with your daughters. Can you remember what the temperature was like in the communal area?
It's warm, like always, in the summer days.
So it was no different to
Not
earlier
different,
days
no.
that
No.
month. Did you ever find the temperature in that area uncomfortable?
Not really, no.
Were you aware of any system on that floor to keep the communal area cool?
There was a vent on this next to our door, actually, on the wall. Sometimes you can hear it, and sometimes you don't.
And when you did hear it, what sort of sound did it make?
Like a fan kind of sound.
Did you ever hear the sound of fans from higher above your floor at all?
No.
Could we turn now to page 3, please, IWS 9112-3, and let's look at paragraphs 14 and 15. You say that the girls and I were fast asleep when I received a telephone call from my aunt Hiwot at approximately 1:30 a.m., which woke me up. And that's your aunt Hiwot Dagnachew, is that right?
Yes.
And she lived, as you explained there, in the tower, but on the 5th floor in flat 26.
Yes.
Now, you say in your statement that it was approximately 1:30 a.m.
I think now I know it's 1:25. 1:25.
And well, let's take
Just-
that in stages.
okay.
Just when you made your statement, you said it was 1:30. So, how did you know what time it was?
I checked my phone a few days after the fire. Checked my phone log. But then I kept forgetting, but eventually I remembered it's 1:25. Should have been 1:25 on there.
So, if we just clarify that for the record, that you're saying that you now think that the call came at 1:25.
Yeah,
Having looked at your own phone records with
Yeah.
your phone.
yeah.
Thank you. What you say in paragraph 14 is that your aunt told you not to panic, but there was a fire in the tower and that you should get out of the tower as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Did Hiwot tell you where the fire was?
No.
Now, you would have been in your bedroom at that time.
Yes.
Did you yourself see any signs of the fire?
No.
And did you look out of the window to see if you could see
No.
anything?
No,
So can we take it from that? Was there any smoke in your flat at all at that time?
no,
What you then go on to say is that you woke the girls up, left the flat straight away,
yes,
and you were in your pajamas, you had your phone, and that's all that you took with you, is that right?
yes,
And you walked out of the flat and you closed the door behind you.
yes.
Again, just help us with this. What did you have to do to close your door?
Actually, I ran out. I went halfway because when I ran out, the door was left open. It doesn't shut on its own, so I ran back again and pulled the door shut.
So you're clear in your mind that when you left your home, the door was shut.
Yes.
Can we look, please, at paragraph 16? And if I read that, I came out onto my landing with my daughters, and I could see light smoke on the landing. My neighbour Amal was also on the landing with her relative. We both spoke at the same time and said there is a fire. I told Amal that I knew about the fire and that we needed to get out. Amal ran back into her flat. She has a daughter, and I presume she went back for her.
Yes.
Now, again, taking that in stages, when you came out onto the landing, were the lights in the landing on?
Yes.
And you say that you could see light smoke. How soon after coming onto the landing did you notice smoke?
As soon as I opened my front door, I noticed there was a light smoke.
And could you see through the smoke?
Yes.
Can you help us with what colour it was?
Very light grey, almost sort of whitish.
So would one way of describing me or comparing it would be like cigarette smoke?
Yeah.
But it was visible to you?
Yes. Yes.
Was it in any particular part of the landing?
I felt like it was just all over. It was in my view anyway.
Did you see where the smoke was coming from?
No.
Did it have any effect on you or your daughters?
No.
And before we leave that paragraph, is it right that where you mention your neighbour Amal, is that Amal Ahmadin who lived in flat 166?
That's right, yeah.
And Amal went back into her flat.
The last time I remember her running back really fast back into her flat.
And did she leave the flat door open? Or?
When she came out, her flat door was wide open, yeah.
So I'll take that in stages again. But when she was out on the landing, was her flat door wide open?
Yes.
And then she went back into the flat. Is that right?
Yes, she did.
And what did her relative do?
She was just standing there, and then when I headed towards the staircase, she followed me. She was right behind me.
Well, before we look at your evidence on the stairwell, can I ask you one last question about the landing area? And it's this. You'd obviously come home earlier that night with your daughters, and now you're out in the landing area and you've noticed smoke. Did you notice any difference in the temperature of the landing area compared to before?
I don't remember temperature, no.
Well, let's take a look now at paragraph 17 on the same page, please. And as you've just told us a few moments ago, Amal's relative had remained on the landing and then started to follow you and your children. Can you describe that relative at all? Do you remember anything about her?
She had a hijab on, black hijab. That's what I can remember.
Now, to go to the stairs, you have to go through a door, is that right?
Yes.
And do you remember whether you had to open that door? Or whether?
Yes, I remember opening that door.
And when you stepped into the stairwell, what happened to that door?
I'm not sure because Amal's relative was behind me, so I don't know. I can't be 100% sure. But normally it does shut it does close automatically, but I can't be sure.
Was it the case that you just came
Walked
through the
in.
stairwell and started walking down?
Yes.
As you were moving down the stairwell and walking down, did you feel any sensation of air blowing on your face at all?
I don't recall that, no.
Did you notice any smoke in the stairwell when you first exited from floor 19?
Yes, there was still that light grey smoke again.
So there was grey smoke on the stairwell,
Yes.
and was that immediately after you went through that door?
Yes, I noticed it straight away, yeah.
Was it any different to the smoke that you'd seen on the landing?
Maybe this one is not slightly darker, maybe more clear grey smoke on the stairwell.
So I think going back, you said that the smoke you'd seen in the landing area was white to grey. Is that right?
Yeah.
And this was
More like grey, but you can still see through it. It's not dark at all, but like grey smoke.
And how much of it was there compared to what you'd encountered on the landing?
A little bit more. Little bit, not too much, but just a little bit more.
And can you remember whereabouts it was on the stairwell when you first got out?
I noticed it straight away as I went into the stairwell and going down as well. Stairwell.
And you told us you came through the stairwell door into the stairwell and there was the smoke. Did it have any effect on you or your daughters?
Not at that moment, no.
Was there any difference in temperature between the landing and the stairwell?
I don't recall that. I don't think so.
As you're starting to go down the stairwell towards the ground floor, did you hear the sound of any fans at all?
I don't remember fans, no.
So you're walking down from the 19th floor with your daughters and with Amal's relative. Were you aware of anyone else walking down the stairwell at the same time?
Yes, there was few people in the stairwell. Few people below us and few people. As soon as I entered the stairwell, there's already people above me I can see coming down, and there's already few people walking down below me as well, so we sort of joined in the middle. But I don't remember who. I can't be precise on how many as well.
But you did have a sense of people,
People.
above you and below
Yes.
you all making their way
Yes,
down.
yes.
If I go back to paragraph 17 and I'll continue, I'll read out the rest of it. We had not gone far down the stairs, though I do not remember which floor we'd reached, when we met a group of approximately 10 people on the stairwell. They all seemed to be other residents of the tower. Someone below us shouted out, "Go back, go back." The group, including me, my two girls, and Amal's relative, all started moving back up the stairs, i.e. up the tower. Now, appreciate that that's the time when you were making your witness statement, but thinking about it now, are you able to help at all with where you were when you met this group of 10 people on the stairwell?
I met them. I remember people as soon as I went onto the stairwell from the 19th floor. That's when I noticed those people from the beginning. We all started going down the stairwell, and then I don't know how far we went down, and we had go back, man's voice quite loud, and then we all started running back up the stairs. It's the same 10 people I saw from the beginning, basically.
So what it wasn't was you walking down and then coming across a group of 10 people?
No, we sort of joined together as soon as I left my floor.
So if we can get the picture right, you joined the movement of people all going down.
Yes.
And you think that there were about 10 people?
Yeah, it's just a guess, just to say there was few people, but I can't be sure.
Thank you. And then you heard a man's voice saying, "Go back, go back."
Yeah.
Did that voice come from lower down? Or?
Yes, definitely.
And could you see who it was?
No.
And did anyone explain why you had to go back?
No.
You've told us that when you first came into the stairwell, you came across smoke.
Yeah.
As you're going down and before you hear go back, did the conditions in the stairwell change at all?
At that time, no. No.
So when you heard go back,
It's the same sort of condition.
and were you able to try and look further down the stairwell to see whether there was a worse conditions further down?
You can't really see further down, but no.
So all it was this one voice telling you all to go back?
Yeah.
And did everybody accept that advice?
Yes, we all run back up.
And you just said we all run back up.
The people
Was
I
that how it
remember.
was?
Yeah.
Can you remember how many flights of stairs? Excuse me.
It's very difficult to remember, but we didn't go far down. Maybe we went down 3 floors or something. So we could have been on the 16th floor, 15th floor, something like that. It wasn't far enough. It wasn't too far, but we went down a few flights anyway.
Yeah.
And then we had go back, and then we sort of started making our way back up again.
Well, let's look at paragraph 18 of your statement. You begin that paragraph by saying, I got to the top of the stairs on my floor. Was it the case that you reached your floor again and just
Yes.
decided to stop for a moment?
Yes.
And when you reached floor 19, can you remember if the door from the stairwell back into the landing was open or shut?
No, it's shut.
Can you remember if there was anything coming through it?
I don't remember that, no.
Now, you weren't, as you've explained, the only person who started walking back up. Can you remember what happened to the other residents who were also walking back up?
I have no idea. I don't know where they went. I don't know whether they went back to the flats or whether they went further up. Sadly, I just can't see anybody.
Do you have any recollection of people walking past you on floor 19 and continuing up the building?
By the time I got to my floor 19, I don't remember seeing anybody else. So
Can you remember what happened to Amal's relative?
I have no idea. I don't know whether she went back in or whether she went further up, because I was slower than everybody else because I was carrying my daughter and holding on to my other one. So I was sort of the slowest one. So by the time I reached, there was nobody around me, so I have no idea where they went.
So the last time that you saw Amal's relative was in the stairwell?
Following me, behind me, yeah.
And following you behind you and going down?
Yes, that's the last time I saw her.
So you're on in the stairwell by floor 19 now.
Yeah.
Did you open the door into the landing at
No.
all?
No.
Well, let's continue with this paragraph. You say, I did not want to go back into my flat, so I decided to ignore the advice that had been shouted in the stairwell to go back up, and I headed back down the stairs with my daughters. There was no one in the stairwell at this point. As we were walking down the stairs, the smoke was becoming thicker and thicker. It was dense and dark grey, but I could see through it. I was able to breathe without any difficulty. Can you remember how many flights of stairs you walked down before the smoke started getting thicker and thicker?
I don't know what floor, but it was more lower, sort of. I've probably gone halfway down, so I would be in the lower floors.
And lower than you had been when you first heard someone say, go back, go back?
I think so. I can't be sure about that, but
So this is now the second time you've come down the stairwell, isn't
Yes.
it? Was there any difference in the conditions in the stairwell on this second journey compared to the first?
initially it was the same. But as I said, as I went further lower floors, I noticed some of the doors were slightly open. No, the smoke first, I noticed the smoke was getting a bit darker grey. And then as I went further down, I noticed some of the doors were slightly open because there was fire hoses going through them. And I could see a dark, really, really dark, thicker smoke coming up from above the door into the stairwell.
Well, let's take that in stages, please, because if we look at your paragraph 19, this is where you deal with coming across a female firefighter on the way down. How did you know that it was a female firefighter?
It's so weird, I don't know. I don't know why. From day one, I thought it was a female fire, but I can't be 100% sure.
Was that the first firefighter you'd come across?
That's the one I remember, yeah.
Can
Yes,
you remember if she was
the-
wearing a mask on her face at all?
No, no mask on her face, no.
And was she on her own?
Yes.
You say that she was dragging a fire hose up the stairs,
Yeah.
but you finished that paragraph by saying we were able to walk past her without any difficulty as she was by the stairwell door on the landing. Now, again, thinking about it, do you have any recollection of which floor the firefighter
no.
may have been on?
I have no idea what floor. But I think I was lower down, definitely, but I can't remember.
Now, you've said she was dragging a fire hose up the stairs and she was by a stairwell door. Do you remember if that door was open or closed?
It was slightly open.
And could you see anything through the door?
I can see smoke coming up from the door.
And can you describe that smoke, please?
Dark, very dark, grey smoke.
And do you think that was the first time that you encountered that kind of smoke?
That wasn't the only floor I encountered the smoke, but I don't know if it's before or after I saw her.
Thank you. Well, let's look now at the next page, paragraph 20. You say, as I was coming down the stairs on the lower floors, but I do not recall precisely which floors, I could see that the stairwell doors leading onto the landings, which lead to the flats on each floor, were wedged open by the fire hoses passing through them, which were coming from the stairwell. I saw that the doors being partially open due to fire hoses coming from the stairs into the landings on each level allowed the smoke to enter the stairwell, and it was spreading up the stairs higher into the tower. Did you see any stairwell door wedged open with anything other than a fire hose?
No.
And you say you have a recollection of stairwell doors wedged open. How many doors can you remember?
I remember at least 2 doors.
And how much smoke was coming through these partially open doors?
Quite a lot. I mean, it was different smoke because I noticed it was much darker again in colour, really dark grey and slightly thick and dense. And it was going up, it was coming up from the top of the door and it was sort of rising up.
Did the smoke that you saw, I mean, what you've described about the stairwell smoke is it was, on that second journey, it was darker than the smoke you first encountered?
When I got to the lower floors, when I was still up, sort of making my way down, it was similar, but as I got further down, I noticed the smoke, yes, it was getting darker. And the smoke that was coming out of the stairwell was more, from the doors into the stairwell, was more darker, thicker smoke.
And did that darker, thicker smoke have a taste or a smell at all?
I don't remember a smell or taste at all of that night.
Did it have any physical effect on you or your daughters?
At that moment, no.
And you've described this recollection of fire hoses going through doors. Were you aware of any other firefighters in the area?
I don't remember any other firefighters on the stairwell, no.
And aside from smoke coming through the doors, did you see any other signs of fire?
No.
And on this second journey down, which you took all the way down to the ground floor, didn't you?
Yes.
Did you come across any other residents making their way down at all?
Right at the end of, I think it would be the fourth floor, leading into the sort of the new build area, the new staircase. I saw, which I know my aunt's neighbor, number 25.
Is that Munira Mahmood?
Mohammed and his elderly father. going
Muhammad
down.
Rasul.
Yes, that's it. And then his father, his elderly father, going down slowly. And then I went down past them. Those are the only two people I remember.
Could we look, it's on the same page, but let's look now, please, at paragraphs 22 and 23. If we look now at paragraph 22, Ms. Mekonnen, carefully considering things now, I believe that it only took us approximately 10 minutes to rush out of the tower from the 19th floor, but it felt like it took much longer. I was going down the stairs as fast as I could, but I was carrying my youngest daughter in one arm, and I had linked my other arm with my eldest daughter. I was terrified about tripping over the fire hose, as we had to walk over them several times as we were going down the stairs. The children were holding on to me tightly. As I got to the ground floor of the tower, I was about to exit Grenfell Tower with my children via the fire exit, when I heard a firefighter shout loudly at me to stop. He told me not to go out that way as the fire was on that side of the tower and that debris was falling off the sides of the building. I was not aware of this at the time, and I'm grateful to him for stopping me and my children from being harmed. I just want to ask you, if possibly, if you'll help just try and identify where that fire exit is so that we can understand the layout of the ground floor. Mm-hmm. Could we have, please, MET 000 12593 and page 8? And can we expand the area that's marked, the lower half of the image, please? Community office and entrance lobby. Ms. Mekonnen, can you see the space that's labelled atrium?
Yes.
And we can see that to the right of that, as we look at it, there's a staircase. And there are two exits, aren't there? There's one in front on the south side, and there's one on the east side. Do you have those two exits?
Yes.
So which one had you intended to leave by? Which was the fire exit?
Coming down the steps would have been the one to my left, the end of the stairs to my left.
Thank you. I don't have very much more questions. Are you happy to continue?
Yeah.
We're going to have a break very soon, excuse me, anyway. But how much longer do you think?
I think I will, before we need to have the break, probably no more than 10 minutes for me.
Well, would you rather have a break now, or could you carry on for 10 minutes?
I can carry on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In your statement, you've given a detailed account of what happened to you once you'd left the tower, and I only need to ask you a few questions about that. Could we look, please, at IWS 912, page 7? If you expand paragraph 40, please. Now, Ms. Mekonnen, you're talking there about going to the Rugby Portobello Trust, and I'll come back to that paragraph in a moment, but just to give you some context. You explain in your statement that you had called your partner, Johannes, at work after 2 o'clock, and that's, if you need it, that's in your paragraph 36. Now, just help us with that. How sure are you that that call to him was after 2 o'clock?
Quite sure, yeah.
And is that from looking at your phone?
Yeah.
You also say in your statement that you'd called your neighbour, Jeanette, who lived in flat 153 a few times once you were outside the tower.
Yes.
And she eventually called you, didn't she, to say she...
We spoke, a few times back and forth. We called each other a few times.
Now, in this paragraph, you say we were then told to go to the Rugby Portobello Trust by a police officer who took a note of our names and our flat number. And you continue, at this point, I went to pick up my daughters from Salam's house, and we went to the Rugby Portobello Trust together. Now, I just want to ask for your help in just timing this conversation with the police officer. So, was it after you had made the call to your partner that you had this conversation with the police officer?
I think the police officer, who could have been way before, I think the police officers took our details on our way to Clarendon Road, actually, not Portobello, Rugby Portobello. Much sooner, the police officers took our detail before I spoke to my partner.
Well, let's deal with it in this way. You've come out of the tower, and just to help you, we know your exit time was 1:33. How soon after you had left the tower did a police officer take your details?
Just maybe after 2, because it depends. What time did I take the video? Because that was not long after I took the clip of that video with the pictures.
Okay, well, we can use that as a reference.
Yes,
Thank you.
So it would be maybe 5-10 minutes after that I took a picture of the building.
And was that the first time that you'd been asked for your details?
Yes.
Can you just clarify, what details were you asked to provide?
They just said flat number and how many of us came out.
And was it a police officer who took that information?
Yes.
Can we move forward, please, to page 10 in the statement? If we could just expand paragraphs 59 and 60, please. You begin these 2 paragraphs, Ms. Mekonnen, by saying, my daughters and I were lucky enough to have got out of the tower fairly early. But then you continue, however, I noticed that the girls were coughing for a few days after the fire, and I arranged an appointment for them with our GP. Our GP advised that the girls were coughing as a result of smoke inhalation, but it was nothing to worry about and should clear up by itself. If I may, can I just ask you a few brief questions about that? Can you describe just what your daughter's symptoms were like in the days after the fire?
Just a lot of coughing all the time.
And when you went to the GP, did the GP tell you what effect the smoke inhalation had had?
They said it most probably irritated sort of their throat area. It's just an irritation, and they said it would clear up after a while, and it did.
How long did it take to clear up?
Probably within a week, they stopped coughing.
And other than the visit to the GP, they had no other treatment?
No.
Were you affected in any way?
I don't know. I was fine. I wasn't coughing or anything. I guess I was too shocked to think, because what happened afterwards was so tragic, and a lot of lives were gone that night. I thought, in comparison, I didn't worry too much about that at that moment, but I wasn't coughing or anything.
Thank you. So if we could have a break at this point, just so that I can check with the other lawyers if there's any other
Yes.
questions that we need to ask.
Well, we'll definitely have a break. Yes.
Thank you.
We're going to have a break now. I'm sorry it's been a bit later than usual. Until 11:15. I have to ask you please not to talk to anyone about your evidence while you're out of the room. And if you go with the usher now, she'll look after you. All right? Thank you very much. Right, 11:15, please. Well, now, Mr. Robert, have you got some more questions?
We do, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, well, I'd expected you would. Could we ask Mr. Mekonnen to come back then, please? I think Mr. Rowett has a few more questions, if you can manage it.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Rowett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mekonnen, can I start off by taking you back to an answer you gave to one of my earlier questions? And that is where you said that one of your concerns about the stairwell was that there was no ventilation in the stairwell. Can you just, how did you know that there was no ventilation in the stairwell?
Because when I had to use the stairwell in the past, when we didn't have lifts and things like that, I've always felt it was slightly warmer. I've never felt any sort of breeze, any sort of air movement.
And
Plus, visually, I didn't see any sort of. There's no window. I've never seen a vent in there. I've never noticed anything like that.
Thank you. Let's go back to your statement then and go to paragraph 83, which is on page 14. So IWS 91214, please. Could we expand 83? One of the other things you mentioned about the staircase and your concerns was that when the lights went out, as there were no windows, had that happened to you before, that the lights had gone out in the stairwell when you were using it?
Yes. It was completely dark.
And how soon before June 2017 did that happen?
Months before, I don't know, maybe a year before, during the refurbishment. Months, yeah.
But on the night itself, when you were making, you've told us you took 2 journeys down the stairs. What was the lighting like in the stairwell?
No, it was normal, it was lit.
It was lit?
Yeah.
Thank you. Just so that we can be clear, and when you were making your way down the stairwell, on the second occasion in particular, did you hear any sound that was sounded like a fan at all?
No, it was very quiet, I think. Nothing.
And did you feel the movement of air at all?
No.
Can I take you back to paragraph 17, please, of the statement, page 3. This is taking you back, Ms. Mekonnen, to your account of someone shouting, "Go back, go back." And I think if my memory is right, you told us it was a man's voice.
Yes.
Can you describe that person's accent?
Sounds English. It was just clear English accent.
Did you see who it was at all?
No.
Could you tell anything from what you heard about who that person was?
I couldn't tell who it was, but I assumed at that time it changed everything once we heard "go back." We were just on our way down. We were panicked, but on our way down. When we heard "go back," I assumed something terrible, something worse was happening below us. I assumed maybe it's another resident, probably seen flames in the stairways. Who could say "go back" in terms of a fire? You know, when there's a fire, who could possibly say "go back" unless there's something worse? It changed everything. That's what I remember.
And what you've told us is that you joined a group of people making their way down.
Yes.
Someone shouted, "Go back, go back."
Yes.
Everybody turned and
Yes, a lot more panic. Everybody was rushing up more faster this time. Even I was more panicked and terrified at that time.
So just, again, so that we can get a sense of what was happening.
Yeah.
On that first journey down, were you moving fast?
We just walked fairly, not too fast. We weren't running or anything, but going down as fast as we can without rushing so much.
And then when you
careful.
heard that voice, what
Yes, it was
happened?
a bit more panic and more rushing, running up the stairs. We just didn't know what happened.
Now, in the group of people that you described being in the stairwell at the same time as you, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that your memory is that once you got back up to floor 19, you couldn't see anyone after
No.
that. But did you recognise anyone else from that group?
No.
Was there any, do you have a memory of anyone who lived on your floor being in that group?
No.
Do you have a memory of
remember.
anyone that you knew who lived in the tower in other flats being in that group?
I don't remember who they were. I don't know who they were. I don't remember.
Thank you. Just one last matter from me. You've obviously given a detailed witness statement. You've patiently answered all the questions that I've put to you today. And my last question to you is this. Above and beyond what you've already given us, is there anything else about the events of that night that you would like the chairman to know?
Basically, I just want to point out that part again. When we heard "go back," we was all, I believe, I didn't see. I know Amal's relative was behind me. I know Amal ran back in to get her daughter. That's for sure, because I know we was going down, but that "go back" changed everything. I believe if we didn't hear that "go back," those people in the stairwell with me, because I know for sure Amal didn't make it, her relative and her daughter didn't make it. I know they would have been here now. I think that's where it changed.
Yeah.
I was going to go back in myself, but it was that fear I've always had made me feel like, I'm going to give it a go and go down every floor to see what's going on until I made my way out. So that's where it changed. I believe Amal and her relative, her daughter, would have been here if we didn't hear that "go back."
Right.
I don't know who else didn't make it that day because of that, but it changed everything.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mekonnen, and can I once again thank you for coming to give evidence to us. Your answers today have been enormously helpful to the work of the inquiry, so thank you.
All right.
And I'd also like to thank you. It's absolutely vital for us to hear the accounts of people who were inside the building at the time of the fire, because only you can describe what it was like. And it must have been a terrifying and distressing situation, and I'm sorry we've had to ask you to relive it yet again. But it is very helpful to us, and we're very grateful to you for coming along to give your evidence.
Okay, thank you.
If I may say so, in a very careful and composed way as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now you're free to go. Would you like to go with the usher, and she'll look after you?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I explain? We do have one more witness
Yes.
to be called this morning, but could I just ask for a short 5-minute break so that we
To
can just make
rearrange
any
the
arrangements that may be necessary?
Yes. All right. Well, I'll rise for 5 minutes, or if you're ready soon, ask the usher to come and get me.
Grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Rawat. Now then, are we ready?
We are ready, Mr. Chairman. Can I now call, please, Hiwot Dagnachew?
Yes, thank you. Standing table, standing round there.
I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much indeed. Sit down and make yourself comfortable, all right? Good. Yes, Mr. Rawat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you give the inquiry your full name, please?
Hiwot Dagnachew.
Mrs. Dagnachew, can I start by, first of all, thanking you for coming to give evidence to us today. Everyone here will have seen the witness statement that you've already given, but we are very grateful for your willingness to continue to help the inquiry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just explain 4 preliminary matters before we go on? The first thing is that if you need a break at any time, please just say so and we'll stop. The second is that everyone here will understand how difficult it is to have to go back to the events of that night. And so it's important that you know that you can take as much time as you need. Third, and I hope I can do this, but I'm going to try and keep my questions as short and as straightforward as I can make them. But if I do ask something that you can't understand, then don't hesitate to tell me, and I'll try and put it in a different way.
Thank you.
And the last thing I want to mention to you, just so that you're how we're going to do things today, is that before you came here, through your solicitors, you confirmed that your evidence is going to focus on what the inquiry calls phase 1, which is the events of the night. And that's what my questions are going to be about today. So I won't ask you about the wider issues that will be canvassed in phase 2. All right?
Right.
Could we have, please, on the screen, the first page of Mrs. Dagnachew's statement, which is IWS 50845, please. Just to help you orientate yourself, you can see that that's the first page of your statement, and it's the statement that you've given to this inquiry.
It is.
It'll come up as we go through it on the screen that's there, but if you want a paper copy, you should find one in the bundle in front of you.
It's not mine.
All right.
Have you got the wrong one there?
It has Meron Mekonnen.
Ah, I'm sorry, that's not well organised. Have you got a clean one over there?
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Thank you.
Let's just check it. So if you go to tab 1, hopefully your statement will be there.
It is.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you.
Can we go to page 30 then of the statement? And that'll come up as well on the screen in front of you. And we can see there that the statement's dated the 21st of May 2012, and it's signed. Can you confirm that that's your signature, please?
It is.
Have you had a chance to go through your statement recently?
I have.
And can you confirm that the contents of the statement are true?
It is.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, there are no exhibits to be put into the record.
Right, thank you.
Can I begin, please, with just a bit of background, if I may, and I'll take you back to page 4 of your statement. And if we look at paragraphs 14 and 17. And what you've explained in these paragraphs is that you first moved into the tower in 2004.
Yes, I did.
And that was when your son was young and you were
Very
expecting
young.
your daughter.
Yes, I was.
And you moved into flat 112, and then it was 6 years later that you moved into flat 26.
That's true.
And that's where you were living in June 2017.
It was.
So if my maths is right, you had by June 2017 had a home in Grenfell Tower for nearly 13 years,
Yes.
hadn't you?
Yes, I had.
And is it right also you had a tenancy with RBKC?
KCTMO, yeah.
And then by June, therefore, 2017, you were living in flat 26 with your partner
Yes, I did.
and with your son and your daughter.
Yeah.
And
my
by
daughter.
then, your son was 13 and your daughter 11.
That's correct.
Could we just take a look now at page 3 of the statement and just bring up paragraph 9, please? You've explained in this paragraph, Ms. Dagnachew, that everything that was important to me and my family was close to the tower. Both your children's schools were within 15 minutes walk from the home. Your mother lived a 10-minute walk from you in Ladbroke Grove, and you were able to work within 20 minutes. And you finished that paragraph by saying, I felt extremely lucky to be able to work so close to home with a young family.
Indeed.
So, did you feel settled in flat 26?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a home I always thought I'd live forever.
So that's where you saw your future to be, is that right?
Absolutely.
I'd like to start, if I may, just by asking you some questions about what your flat was like in 2017.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, we are going to jump around the statement a little bit, but let's go to page 16 of the statement. And paragraph 87, please. I won't read out the whole paragraph to you, but what you're discussing there is your front door, and you tell us that the front door was replaced during the refurbishment.
I believe it was one of the first of the refurbishments before all the big refurbishments, i.e. the boilers and other things took place, the window replacements.
So that was one of the first things that happened to your flat, was it?
Yeah,
And,
it was
and-
quite early on.
and was that the door you still had in June 2017? Can you describe that door to us? What did it look like?
It was blue. It had a small arched window at the top.
Did it have a letterbox in it?
It did have a letterbox.
Did it have a self-closing mechanism?
It did.
And in June 2017, how was that self-closing mechanism working?
It was still there. It was still working.
And so you didn't have any problems with that at all, did you?
I didn't. I was actually offered when I had a problem with the door the day I got stuck in my flat. Had I wanted it to be removed by the contractor that came to make it easier to open and close. But I stated no, I wanted it to remain because if I didn't want to lock the door, it would just self-lock and you didn't need the keys to lock the door. So I insisted in keeping it the way it was.
Yeah.
And can we go to paragraph 95 then? And that's on page 18 of the statement. So, in this part of your statement, you describe having problems with drafts around your replacement windows. Were you having problems of that sort in June 2017?
A slight problem because I had raised the issue so many times with the resident liaison officer on some occasions, and also with her manager, so they can sort out the gaps I had where the draft was coming through. And I think it's in my statement, this happened over 4 occasions where they had to come in and seal where we had drafts coming through the windows.
Yeah.
But just so that we can be clear, if we take you to June 2017, it was still a problem?
Slight problem.
Was there any particular window that was affected by this slight problem?
I would say the sitting room window and a bit in the kids' bedroom.
Perhaps if we show you a plan, could we have MET 30125593, please, and then page 12 of that. Just to explain to you, Ms. Dagnachew, this is a layout, as you can see, of the 4th floor, but it applies to your floor because from the 4th floor up, the layout was the same for every flat.
Yeah.
And so if we can expand the flat 6, please, so that's in the top northeast corner. So that would be, if we went up 1 level, that would be flat 26 where you lived.
Yeah.
We can see that there are windows in the lounge. You've got 2 windows north, 2 windows east.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there were problems with drafts in a living room window.
Yeah.
Can you, using that, tell us which window it was?
Yeah. It's the window in the lounge facing the north side, and also the first bedroom that's right next to the lounge. That window in that bedroom.
So we've got 2 windows in the lounge facing north. Was it the window closest to the bedroom?
Closer to the bedroom.
So if we look at that wall of that bedroom, you had problems with the 2 windows on either side of that wall.
Yeah. And I would say probably the reason I noticed that window, particularly in the lounge, was because my sofa was closer to that window, and that's where I sat most evenings. Could have been possible that the others may have still had a bit of a draft coming through.
And was it any particular part of the window that you'd feel a draft?
Right at the bottom, by the sill, by the edges.
And was that the case in relation to both windows?
It was.
And that bedroom that we see, the one that's nearest to the lounge, was that your bedroom, or was
No, it was the children's bedroom.
And were there particular times when you'd feel a draft?
In the evenings, most evenings, especially when it was very windy outside.
Could we bring that image back down so that we can see the whole of it, please? And then just expand the middle part. Ms. Dagnachew, what you can see, I hope, well, slightly faintly, but can you see that there's an area marked as the communal hall?
Yeah.
And where the lifts are and the doors to the stairs.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think people call it the lobby area or the landing.
Yeah.
Now, you're on the 5th floor,
Yes.
and you'd lived there for 6 years by 2017. But if we go back to the days leading up to the fire, do you remember what the temperature was like in the lobby area on your floor?
Quite normal.
Explain to us what you mean by quite normal.
It wasn't hot, it wasn't cold, it was just, yeah. I don't know how to explain it, but
Would you describe it as comfortable?
comfortable, yes.
And was that how it was usually?
It was.
Were there ever occasions when the temperature became too hot?
I don't remember any time.
were you aware of any system in place to cool the temperature on the landing down?
No, I wasn't aware, or maybe I've forgotten, to be honest.
Did you ever hear the sound of fans in the landing area?
I don't remember.
Thank you. I want now, if I may, just to show you a photograph that's taken. It's taken inside the tower, but it's of a notice. And before I do it, though, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll give the usual warning because it is a photograph taken after the fire, and that may be distressing to some of those here. So I'll briefly pause just to allow an opportunity if anyone wants to leave. I think looking at the hearing room, everyone's all right. Can we have BLA 402416, please? If I could just again explain to you, Ms. Dagnachew, it's a notice that the photograph shows it's a notice that was positioned by the lift doors on floor 3. My first question to you now is, do you remember seeing a notice like this between the lifts or sited by the lifts on the ground floor?
Yes, I do.
And what about your own floor? Was there a notice like that on your floor?
I do not recall. I don't remember, to be honest. But I certainly remember on the ground floor seeing it.
And if we just expand the top part of it. You can see that it reads that there's a stay put policy for residents unless the fire is in or affecting your flat.
Yeah.
Before the 14th of June 2017, did the phrase stay put mean anything to you?
It's a hard question for me to answer because where I work, I've always been told, and we always regularly have fire drills. If you see or suspect any fire, you just leave. No seconds to waste. No need to go and grab your jackets. So that's always stayed with me. So I suppose that stay put policy would not have really stayed in. I don't know. I don't think I would have really stayed put if I was aware of any fire anywhere, be it my flat or elsewhere.
Aside from the notice that you remember on the ground floor, were you aware of any information from any organisation or individual about what you should do if there was a fire?
No.
So would it be fair to say that what informed your understanding in June 2017 of what to do if there was a fire in the tower was what you had learnt from work?
Yes.
Again, I'm going to show you just another photograph. Again, it's taken after the fire, and it's of the interior of the building. I don't think I think the warning applies, but I don't think anybody's wanting to leave at this point, Mr. Chairman. Right. So let's put it up. If I could just explain, it doesn't show anything distressing in particular, Ms. Dagnachew. But could we have BLA 402513, please? This is a photograph, if I explain, Ms. Dagnachew, it's taken on floor 6. And can you see that there is sort of what might be described as in the ceiling a white detector? It's
yes.
A sort of round plastic object there.
Yeah.
Can you recall if there was something similar to that in the ceiling of the communal area on your floor?
I remember there being one before the refurbishments, but I can't recall or remember if it was still around after the refurbishments were completed, because I remember we had false ceilings put up right about the time the refurbishments were completed. So I really don't remember if it was still there after the refurbishments were completed.
what I'd like to do now is to turn to the events of the night themselves. Are you happy to continue? Or?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I take you then to, can we have IWS 845, page 5, please? And if we could just expand the bottom half of that, the last two paragraphs. Again, just to put things in context, Ms. Dagnachew, you're beginning your statement there with your recollection of the night of the 13th of June. And you have, earlier in the statement of paragraph 21, you begin it by saying, "It was a normal Tuesday evening for our family. I remember it being a warm, balmy evening." And what you tell us in the two paragraphs that we can see up on the screen is that the children were in bed by about 9 p.m. Your partner, Winton, went to bed and you fell asleep on the sofa.
Yes.
If we go to the next page, please, and look at paragraphs 26 and 28. 28, please. I'm going to pick it up at the second paragraph.
Okay.
You say, "I was sleeping on the sofa and was woken up when I heard what seemed to be the distant sound of an alarm. When I started to awaken, I could smell smoke and I could hear the faint ringing sound which had awoken me. At first, I thought that I was imagining the noise, but it wouldn't stop, and then I realized I was smelling smoke." Could you describe the smell of the smoke to us?
I really couldn't. I really don't remember the smell at all.
I
I smelled smoke, but I don't remember what it smelled like.
Was it quite a light smell, or was it very strong?
At the time, probably rancid, but yeah, I mean, sitting here thinking about how it smelled back then, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Now, you were in, obviously, because you'd fallen asleep on the sofa, you're in the living room. Can you
Yes,
remember if
I
any
was.
of the living room windows were open at the time?
I don't think there were. I think it was just the kitchen window that was open that night.
Whilst you could smell smoke, could you see any smoke in the air in the living room?
Not in the living room, no.
And if we look at paragraph 27, what you then did was made your way to the kitchen.
Yes.
And if you just explain, we can go back to the plan if it will help you, but just the layout. How would you go from your living room to your kitchen?
There was a door to the living room, which was always open. I always liked it open. And there was a bit of a corridor, and then the kitchen door was right opposite it.
As you're making your way from your living room to kitchen, could you see anything from the windows of the living room?
No, I couldn't.
Did you
I
notice?
don't.
You didn't notice anything going on outside at all?
No, not at all.
So there was nothing outside the windows that caused you concern?
No, not at all, not at that time.
If I draw your attention to paragraph 28, what you explain is that, sorry, I'll pick it up again at paragraph 27. As soon as I opened the kitchen door, I could see the kitchen was full of smoke. The smoke was dark grey in colour, but I could still see through it. And then you continue in 28. The ringing noise which I could hear was coming from the carbon monoxide alarm which was sitting on a kitchen shelf. And that was an alarm that had been given to you some time earlier, is that right?
It was, yeah.
Can I just ask, when you went into the kitchen and saw all the smoke, did you get any impression of where the smoke was coming from?
Not at all, which is why I was looking to see. At first, I thought it was my kitchen that was full of smoke and on fire, but I couldn't see anything. I looked on the cooker, I tried to look where the smoke was coming from, and I had no idea up until the last moment where the fire came through.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's go then just to paragraph 29 of the statement, please. The next paragraph down on the same page. This ties into what you've just told the chairman about what you remember doing in the kitchen, but you mentioned that the window was on a side hinge and it had been left open. And just explain to us, can you explain to us how the window would open on that hinge? Does it open outwards like a door?
No, it opens in.
Right.
I think I remember.
So you would turn the handle and it would pull in.
Yeah.
So, but it would still be like a door.
Yeah.
It wasn't a
sort of
tilt
like-
window.
No, it wasn't. The small one was not. Whereas the other side, the other half, you could either tilt it or open it wider.
But was it the small window
The
that was
small
open?
window that was open, yeah.
And I appreciate it's difficult and we're asking you to go into detail, but can you tell us how open that side window was? When
It was open as far as it could go, I suppose.
and you'd left that in to get some air into the flat, is that
Yes,
right?
That's true.
But I assume there was some form of stop on the window, was there?
Oh, yeah, there is, because
You can't open it
it's
very
got, yeah, the window has got a frame,
Yeah.
so it kind of stopped just before the frames.
Thank you.
Did you have a vent in the window?
Just above the small window.
And what about an extractor fan?
That was, I think, part of it.
So
I think there were, yeah.
I think we might try and find
think
we'll try and
it
find a
was.
picture to show you in a moment,
Yeah.
but just so that we can get it as clear as we can. But you have a window that has a large pane on one side, a side window that can open
With a
inwards,
yeah.
and then above it,
A small fan, sort of, yeah, extractor.
I don't think it is that. I'll come back to that if I may.
Sorry,
What-
can I go back and ask, did you say vent?
Yes.
Did it have a vent? No, it just had that fan
So-
extractor.
So
That's-
above
that's
the small side
From
window.
what I can remember.
Yes.
So above the window, we can
Yeah,
imagine that there was an
from what
extractor
I can
fan.
remember, yeah. I don't remember if there was any vent. But I do not recall.
And did were there wires leading from that extractor to anywhere?
I think there was a small wire where you can pull at. I don't know if it was attached to it or on the side. But if you've got a picture, maybe.
Yes, I think that's the way.
Well, we could
Yeah.
do it, yes.
Yes, we can. I think. Again, just to alert everyone here, this is of course a picture taken inside the tower, but after the fire.
It's not particularly
It's
distressing,
not.
is it?
It wasn't. It is just of a kitchen window. So if we can have
I think that's safe enough.
BLAR, I think 703, please. And then page 23 of that document. There we are. If we could expand the image, please. Was that how that this?
Yeah.
I think from memory is taken from a flat on floor 13, but obviously you were on a different floor. But was that how your kitchen window looked?
Yes, it was.
And we can see that that's the side window that you can open
Yeah.
inwards.
Yes.
And above it, is that where the
fan extractor was, yeah.
Thank you. If we go back then to your statement in your paragraph 29, IWS 845, page 6. And let's expand paragraph 29 again, please. I just want to go through it. So you've come into your kitchen, and what you then say is, within seconds of looking around the kitchen to try and find the source of the smoke, fire all of a sudden came through the kitchen window, which was open, and the blinds immediately caught fire. The window was on a side hinge, and as it was a hot night, we'd left the window open to let some cool air and a breeze into the flat. The blinds fell to the floor almost instantaneously. Colour of the flames was dark yellow-orange. Flames were covering the whole of the kitchen window, which went up to the ceiling. If we can try and just break that down a little, please. Before you saw any flames, did you have any chance to see where the smoke might be coming from?
No, I didn't know, which was why I was still looking around to see where it was coming from.
And
as I was looking, I don't think I looked for, 10, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds before I noticed the fire, or the fire coming through, surrounding the whole of the window.
And did you see anything around the extractor fan at all?
I don't remember, because it was the whole of the window that was instantly lit in fire.
And when you say the whole, was it just around the frame to begin with, or?
It felt like it just came in, just like that. The whole of the window, sorry.
If we just look at paragraph 30. What you say is that you pulled the kitchen door shut and ran along the corridor to wake the children and your partner. And you say, I was shouting, there's a fire, we need to go. How far into the kitchen did the flames get before you shut the kitchen window?
The whole of the kitchen windows, and I suppose up to the ceiling. And like I said, the blind was already alight instantly. It was just like seconds, and it just dropped. This is when I literally just closed the door and just ran out and ran into the kids' bedroom, got them up. So I would say probably the whole of that side of the window, all the way up to the ceiling.
Can you remember what was happening to the glass in the window?
No, I didn't stick around that long. It was just seconds. I did not see or hear anything afterwards.
And so would it be fair to summarise your evidence in this way, that when you came to the kitchen you saw smoke, and then very quickly there was just fire all around the window?
Very quick. Seconds, and it was just in flames.
And it was all over the window rather than in any particular part of it?
No, it wasn't just like starting here or starting above. It was just the whole of the window, instantaneously.
Thank you very much. Can we go just take a look at paragraph 31 now, please? In this paragraph, you say the smoke alarms did not go off in the flat. I had 2 smoke alarms in my flat, one in the corridor and one in the kitchen, but they were not linked up to go off at the same time. You continue, I do not know if the alarms were connected to the mains electricity supply or if they were battery controlled. I had never tasted the alarms, but I knew that the alarm in the kitchen was working, as on the Saturday before the fire, I had managed to trigger it when I was roasting Ethiopian coffee beans.
That's correct.
So 2 alarms, one in the kitchen, one in the hallway.
Yeah.
Neither of them was triggered, is that right?
That's true.
Did you at any time before leaving your flat hear either the smoke alarm in the kitchen or the one in the corridor go off?
I do not remember it at all. No, I did not hear it.
You've given the comparison of roasting coffee beans.
Yes.
How much smoke do you remember would be generated on
Not
when
a
you're
lot
roasting
for it
coffee
to
beans?
to trigger the smoke detector. I've often wondered since after then why the alarm didn't sound in the kitchen. And I've thought to myself, maybe while I was still sleeping on the sofa, it went off. Maybe I didn't hear it because I normally tend to have like really deep sleep once I fall asleep. It's been a long day, been at work, taking the kids to after-school activities and so on. So I've often wondered, had I not heard it while I was still sleeping, did it go off and then stop working? I've wondered that many, many times.
Yeah.
But if we use the example of that Saturday before the fire when you were roasting coffee beans, was the smoke alarm the type that you would have to switch it off and
Yeah.
it would carry on until it was switched off?
Yeah.
Or did it turn off after a while?
No, I had to turn it off. There was a button right in the middle, and you just tag, a stick or whatever to stop it.
If we look now, please, at paragraphs 32 and 33. You've explained there, Mr. Dagnachew, that you got the children, your son was in his pyjamas and trainer shoes, your daughter was in a nightie and socks, and your family left the flat, closing the door behind you. And I think if we look at paragraph 33, you say, we were out of the flat within a minute of me seeing the fire. In the time that you were still in the flat, had there been any smoke elsewhere in the flat at all?
No, just the kitchen.
So when you left, taking the kids out of the bedroom, going through the hallway, there was nothing else in the flat, is that right?
Just the kitchen. But the thing is, we didn't hang around a long time. It was just time it took me to get the kids up and Wintom up. So we didn't hang around to see what was happening. I suppose that's why I don't know if there was anything else.
And when you came out of your flat, you would have come out into that communal area, wouldn't you?
Yes, we did.
Were the lights on in the area when
They
you
were.
came out? And what was the temperature of that area like at that time?
Just as usual.
Could you hear any fans at all?
No, I don't remember.
And could you feel any movement of air on the landing?
Nothing at all.
If we go just down the page a bit and just look at paragraphs 34 and 35, please. You say, we got onto the landing, my daughter started walking to the lift and pressed the button to call the lift.
Yeah, that part, is a bit of a typo. She didn't actually press the lift. She was about to walk that way towards the lift to press it for the lift to come. But I actually grabbed her because I knew that in an event of a fire, you should not use the lift. So she didn't actually press the lift.
So for the record, what paragraph 34 should read is that when we got onto the landing, my daughter started walking to the lift to press the button to call the lift, and you pulled her back. You say there was no sign of any fire when we got onto the landing area outside our flat. The air was clear, there was no smoke, nobody else on our floor was outside of their flats. You've told us about the smoke alarms in your flat. Could you hear smoke alarms elsewhere at all?
I didn't.
And to take the stairs, you would have to go through a door, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Do you remember that when you went that way, whether the door from your floor onto the stairwell was open or shut?
It was shut.
And so you would have had to open it
Yes.
to usher your children through, is that right?
Yes.
And when you got onto the stairwell, what happened to the door?
It would automatically shut. I would assume it shut behind us as we walked past the door.
And was that your experience of that door, that it did automatically shut?
Yes, it did.
Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the time, but I'm wondering whether, if subject to any views of Ms. Dagnachew, it might be a good time to have a break.
How are you getting on with the question?
I think I'm about 2/3 of the way through, I would say.
How do you feel, Mr. Dagnachew?
I'm
Would you
happy
like a
to
break, or would you like to carry
I'm
on?
happy to carry on, if that's
Thank you very much.
Well, I thought you were looking quite comfortable, but better to ask, I agree. Yes. I think we can go on, Mr. Blunt.
Thank you.
Mr. Rowan.
It's the same page, Mr. Dagnachew, but I just want to take you now to the last 2 paragraphs on the page where you have an encounter with a firefighter.
Yeah.
And what you've explained, I won't read it, I'll try and summarise it. But you went down 1 floor and you encountered a clean-faced firefighter who wasn't wearing breathing apparatus.
That's correct.
And he was on his own in the stairwell, was he?
Yes, he was.
And are you quite clear in your mind that he was on the
fourth floor
below?
Yes.
What was the fighter doing when you came across him?
At the time, I knew there was a hose involved, and at the time we thought he was rolling out the fire, the hose. But from the conversations we had with the firefighter, it led me to believe maybe he wasn't rolling or unrolling. I can't remember. But it did involve a fire hose. It did involve that firefighter on that floor. And can I just read?
Yes, please.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we thought he was rolling out the hose, but from the reaction we got from him, and I think we assumed maybe it wasn't the case at the time.
Thank you. Can you remember, obviously he's 2 flights down, isn't he, on the next?
Well, yeah.
Yep, there's a
One
half
floor,
landing,
yeah,
isn't there? And
yeah.
Right. So you've come down 2 flights of steps to the 4th floor. Can you remember if the stairwell door to the 4th floor was open or closed?
I don't remember.
You've come into the stairwell, just gone down 1 floor, and then met this firefighter. What were the conditions like in the stairwell at that time?
It was clear. There was no sign of any smoke or any fire. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary at that time.
And aside from yourselves and the firefighter, did you see anybody else?
No.
Were you aware of any residents coming down from higher floors?
No.
And anyone below you?
No.
Let's go to the next page then and look at paragraphs 38 to 41, please. I'm just going to take you through this, if I may. Paragraph 38, you say, I told the firefighter that there was a fire in our kitchen, or that the fire had come through the kitchen window. I do not remember my exact words, but said words to the effect of, there's a fire in our kitchen. Winton was standing behind me and said, there's fire coming into our kitchen. The firefighter was shocked because of his reaction, and the questions he asked, what flat, what floor, what number. I told him flat 26 on the 5th floor. He said, show me. And then you continue, all 4 of us then went back up the stairs with the firefighter to the 5th floor, and we showed him our flat. He asked me to open it. Winton and I both told him we did not have the keys, as we'd left the flat in a hurry. When we'd run out of the flat in a panic, we'd left behind our keys and my mobile phone. And if we would pick up the last part of this in paragraph 41, yeah. We were all standing there looking at the door to the flat. My main concern was the children, and I did not want to stand there any longer than we needed to. So we left the firefighter on our landing as soon as we had shown him our flat and ran back down the stairs. So when you got back onto the 5th floor landing with the firefighter, Were the conditions any different to those when you'd left?
It wasn't at all. It was exactly as we'd left it.
So,
Still clear, no smoke,
and no one coming out of their flats?
no one.
You've described your door as having an arched window at the top,
Yeah.
and I think you said it had a letterbox, is that
Yeah,
right?
it did.
Was there any smoke coming out from around your door or underneath it?
Nothing at all.
If you were looking through the arched window, would you have been able to see any signs of fire in the flat?
Yeah, if there was one, yeah.
But do you remember at all looking through the window and seeing?
No, I don't remember.
And on this trip back to your home, could you hear the sound of any smoke alarms coming from your flat?
No.
You obviously, the firefighter, you tell us, asked you to open the door. Did you see him do anything else?
No, because I was so worried about the children. I'd already told the firefighter. He was aware, he was there. And I thought, yeah, we've got the expert, you know, we've got a firefighter here. Obviously, he'll get the equipment he needed to open the door and tackle the fire. So we left him there.
Can you remember if he was carrying a radio?
I don't remember.
And did you hear him call out or speak to any other firefighters?
Not at all.
And did he tell you anything about what you should do?
No, he
Whether
didn't.
you should stay on the landing or leave?
No, he didn't.
If we could look at now, please, your paragraph 44 on page 8. Again, I'm going to read this out, if I may, Mr. Dagnachew. You say, we ran down the stairs and out of the tower. It only took us a few minutes to exit the tower. I was in shock, and all I could think about was getting out of the flat. I did not realise until we were outside that my daughter had come out without her shoes.
Yes.
So this second journey is a journey down the stairwell from the 5th floor, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
Can you remember now what the conditions were like in the stairwell on this second journey down?
The journey in the stairwell?
Yes.
My memory is as if it's almost black going down the stairs. I really don't remember whether we ran, we walked, what I did, to be honest with you, in the stairwells. So I don't have much recollection of the stairwell as we were going down.
Was it still lit as the
It
stairwell?
was still lit,
And
it was still, yeah, there were still lights.
Did you have a sense of any smoke in the stairwell at all?
I did not notice anything at all.
Were you aware of other people being in the stairwell on that second journey down?
I don't remember at all. I don't recall.
And aside from that firefighter that we've asked you about already, do you recall coming across any other firefighters on the way down?
There may have been a couple, I think, by the entrance to the left. But again, I can't recall. I can't be very precise if there were 2, 3, if there was none at all. But in my head, I think there may have been 2. Yeah.
Now, you've told us the ages of your children,
Yes.
but obviously you had 2 children with you. Did you find it easy to go down the stairwell?
Again, like I said, my recollection of going down the stairs were very, like, almost gone. I didn't even realize that I held my daughter's hand until I saw the CCTV footage. I was shown by the police of us exiting, like, on the last staircase. So it's a hard question to answer because I don't remember.
Right.
Thank
Yeah.
you. What I want now to do is just look at paragraph 50 of your statement. If I explain, Ms. Dagnachew, your statement contains an account of what you saw and heard and did once you were outside the tower. It's very detailed, and so I don't need to ask you many questions about it.
Okay.
But if we look at the reason I wanted to draw your attention to paragraph 50 is because I think the witness before us is Meron Mekonnen, who's your niece.
Yes.
And she's already given her evidence about her contact with you. But if we look at paragraph 50, what you say, and it's if I pick it up on the second sentence, you've explained already you left without your phone, didn't you?
Yes.
And you say a few seconds later, Winton realised that he had his phone in his pocket
Yeah.
all along, and I called Meron immediately. Winton looked at the records of the call on his phone, and he told me that I spoke to Meron at 1:24 a.m.
Yes.
And then you continue, he took photographs of the tower on fire at 1:27, and you'd called Meron before he took those photographs.
That's correct.
And then your advice to Meron was to leave the flat with the kids immediately.
Yes.
So you're clear, having spoken to your partner, that that was the time that you called Meron, is that right?
Yes, it is.
And you've already told us about what influences were in your mind about what to do in a fire.
Yeah.
And that was from work, wasn't it, really?
Yes.
What was it that made you tell Meron that she had to leave the flat with the kids immediately?
When we got out and we were by the grassy area, you could clearly see the fire. At the time, I thought the fire was coming from the third floor, and it looked as if it'd gone up to about a floor above us, from the third to about the sixth floor. And it quickly changed. It kept going up. This is when I was like, I need to call her. And I didn't have my phone. I left my phone at home. Obviously, we were in a state of panic when we left. We didn't have time. And I remember asking Winton if he had his phone. The thing is, because he was in a state of shock as well, he had his pajamas back to front, which is why he couldn't find his phone, because he kept looking for it, and he didn't even realize he'd grabbed the phone. So now I thought, this is going up. I need her out. I need to call her. I need to make sure she gets out quickly.
And you deal with this in your statement. Obviously, Meron did come out of the tower.
She did.
And you also spoke to your friend Jeanette, who lived in flat 153, didn't you?
Yes, I did, but because I didn't have my phone, I didn't actually speak to Jeanette until Meron had come up, because Winton didn't have anybody else's contact details on his phone.
So you had to make efforts to try and get their contact details and then get in touch with those people. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
With those things in mind, that you'd called Meron at 1:24, you'd also spoken to Jeanette. Can I ask you just to look at paragraph 60 of your statement, please? In fact, if we could pick it up at paragraph 59 as well. Can we have 59 and 60 together, please? So, in the preceding paragraph, you're talking about trying to get in touch with Jeanette and speaking, and Meron had come out and passed the phone to you so that you could speak to Jeanette.
Yeah.
You then say, we were then moved away from the area outside of the tower by the police not long after Meron came out. And
Are you all right?
Yeah.
Would you like to break for a bit? All right, well, just take time then to settle yourself down.
I'm fine.
You right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We can stop at any time if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dagnachew, thank you very much for the way you're answering my questions today. But if I, again, just to try and help you, I don't want to ask you about your conversations with Jeanette, all right? But I'm just trying to, the reason I drew your attention to these paragraphs was just so that we can get the sequence of time right. And what I want to ask you about is the sentence where you say the police asked all the residents to give them their names and flat numbers. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And my question is, was this the first time after leaving the tower that you were asked to give names and flat numbers?
It was.
And using your call to Meron as a time marker and the fact that Meron had come out,
Yeah.
can you say how long it was after you'd left the tower that you were first asked to give details like flat number and names?
I don't remember the exact time, but it was soon after Meron had come out. And this was when we had rang Gannett. And soon after that phone conversation, the police were cordoning off the area. We were by the sports centre or close to it or slightly further away from it. And they started cordoning off that area and we were told to move to the other side. And as we were moving, the police were saying, okay, all residents from the tower, please give your name, your flat number, and how many, and walk along to Clarendon Road. So this timing, because we don't have the call logs from Meron's phone, it would have been soon after we'd spoken to Gannett for either the first or second time.
Thank you for that. And your recollection is very soon after Meron
Soon
herself had
after
come out of
Meron
the tower.
had come out, probably within 5 minutes of speaking to Gannett. Yeah.
And just so that we can get a clear picture of what was happening at that time, was there one police officer there collecting names and flat numbers, or
Yeah.
and
there was.
from more than one resident at the same time?
We kind of sort of like took turns in a way, because the way it was set up was like there was this cordoned kind of area and you had to walk across it. And as we were crossing, there was a policeman asking for our details. And as soon as we'd given our details, we'd walk past that area and there was a little passageway leading into Clarendon Road, which is where we remained for the majority of the night.
Thank you very much for that. One of the other things you say, and we don't need to bring the paragraph up, but you passed information about Jeanette on to a police officer, didn't you?
I did.
And I won't bring it up, but I'll just... What you say, and is that one of the officers made a telephone call from his phone about them, and that's Jeanette and her family in flat 153, isn't it?
Yes.
So just so we can be clear, this officer used a mobile phone rather than a radio.
I can't be very precise, but I thought he used a phone at the time, or maybe he used a walkie-talkie. I'm not sure, but I remember clearly saying, because I was so distressed. She was still inside. She was telling me that she couldn't come out, and I remember pleading with the police officer, please, there's a family trapped in this flat. She's got young children. Could you please send help? I remember, I think I was even like grabbing him like this, begging and pleading.
And did you give the...
So I don't know if he talked on his walkie-talkie or he grabbed a phone, but I clearly remember he did. And soon after, we heard from Gannett, because we had a phone conversation. And she told me they managed to get out. Obviously not Isaac. She couldn't find Isaac. Can I take a break?
Yes, of course you can.
Think about it.
You must have nearly finished anyway.
Yes.
Right, let's have a break. We'll break for 10 minutes, all right? Don't talk to anyone about your evidence, please. And you go with the usher, and you go with her, please. Back at quarter to one. Thank you very much. Can I suggest, in the interest of the witness, that this might be a good moment at which to take stock
Yes.
for supplementaries?
That's what we're going to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Quarter to one, then, please. Could you ask the witness to come back, please? Okay. Now, are you feeling ready to go on?
I am.
Yes, all right. We'll take it slowly.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Rowett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Dagnachew, if I just explain that in the break that we had, this is something that we usually do, I've been able to consult with the other lawyers in the room to ask if they have any questions that they'd like me to ask you. There are 4 short matters that I want to cover with you, and they will be short.
Okay.
So, and again, as I have been, we might jump around your statement a little bit, but I hope we can follow a line. The first thing is you gave us some description of what happened when you came out of the tower and how the police collected information.
Yeah.
And I think you told us that they were asking for names and flat numbers.
Yes.
Is that right? Did they ask for any other details, for example, mobile phone numbers?
No.
The second thing is that you told us about the carbon monoxide detector that went off.
Yes.
Whereas your smoke alarm didn't.
Yeah.
When you were roasting coffee beans on the Saturday before, the smoke alarm did go off, didn't it? What about the carbon monoxide detector? Was that affected by the coffee beans at all?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't think it did.
Had it ever happened before when you were roasting coffee beans that detector went
I've
off?
had the detector go off in the past.
When
but
roasting?
For what reason, I do not remember.
Thank you very much. Now, I think you've also given evidence about the advice that you learnt about what to do in a fire from your job.
Yes.
And did you have fire practice drills at work?
Regularly.
In the time that you lived in the tower, was there ever a drill of that sort?
Never.
And the last of the 4 matters I've been asked to cover, and it's your paragraph 48, please. Could we bring that up? It's IWS 845, page 9. And if we could have paragraph 48. 48, please.
All right.
And again, this goes back to what we were talking about before we paused, which is about timing. And you've told us that you can, with your partner's phone, time your call to Menon.
Yeah.
But just to put that into context, what you say is that initially I thought that the fire was from the 3rd to the 6th, as this is what it looked like from the outside. At 1:22, when we got out, the flames were about 1 floor level above our flat. By the time I made a phone call 2 minutes later, and that's the phone call to Menon, isn't it?
Meron, yeah.
Meron, sorry.
No, sorry.
The flames were up as far as the 7th floor. By 1:25, the flames looked like they were up to about the 9th floor. Can you just help us with how you come to give those precise times?
Yeah. Obviously, 1:25 is not going to be probably the time that it was by the 9th floor. I remember from, like I said, the call logs from Gwyntom's phone, the time that we had rang Meron was 1:24. And maybe I said by 1:25 because it felt like within minutes it just kept going up and up. That's probably why I've put that time there, maybe 1:25, 1:26. Because, yeah, it felt like, it was just flying up so quickly.
But what we can be confident about is the one time that you do have
the
is that call
1:24, that phone call, yes.
Thank you. One final matter, and this does come from me, it's first of all to say thank you very much for having made a witness statement. It's second to say thank you for coming and giving your evidence in the way that you have today. And the last then is that above what you've put in the witness statement and the answers you've given today, is there anything else that you think it important to tell the chairman about the events of that night?
There is. kind of evolves around the staple policy, I suppose. And there's been one burning question that's kind of lingered with me since I've heard the early firefighters' evidence, and especially the station managers, the incident commander at the time. Because having told a firefighter quite early on in the evening when we left our flat that there was a breach of fire, other than the originating fire or flat fire, this question I've had is, how is it that the incident commander did not know that fire was raging through flats as well, not just on the outside? We've heard early on in the evening, radio communication, there wasn't any congestion, they were still able to communicate with each other. So what did that firefighter do with that vital information we gave? Because I've always thought, since then, every people we loved, people that died in that evening, had it been to early evacuation decision, they would have been here. Most of them would have been here today. And I want to know, did they know? Or how and why was that not communicated? Because I've worked out from what I've seen from the outside footage, the first that I probably became aware of the fire was probably about between 1:14 to 1:15. And this was early, very early in the night. And so many people could have been evacuated. We've lost so many people because they were told to stay put. We've lost lots of... My question is, why didn't the policy not change when they knew really early on that fire was going into other flats, not just the originating fire? Flat fire. That's my question. And that's what I would like to know. And if any early decision could have and should have and would have, and of course, yeah, you can see it was just even on the outside raging up. And when you see it going up and up, all you wanted was people to be out. I was standing there looking for people, for faces, for so many to come out. I was waiting for my friends, for my neighbors to come out. Why was the policy not changed early on? Why were no people evacuated early on? That is what I want to put across.
Well, it's an important question, and one which we will do our very best to answer.
Thank you, that's all.
There's nothing further from me, but thank you very much once again, Mr. Dagnachew.
And I'd like to thank you as well. It's really vital, as I said to many other witnesses, that we hear about what was going on inside the tower. And I have to say that your description of the fire coming into your kitchen must have been a truly terrifying experience. And you obviously found what happened thereafter very distressing as well. So I'm sorry we've had to ask you to relive it, but it will help us very much in getting at the answer to your question. All right? So thank you very much for coming to keep your evidence.
Thank you.
And you're free to go. If you'd like to go to the usher, she'll look after you.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you. Well, Mr. Rawat, is that a convenient point?
It is a convenient time. There will be another witness this afternoon,
Yes.
starting at 2 o'clock, and Mr. Millett will be calling that witness.
Right. All right, well, we'll break now and resume at 2 o'clock then, please. 2 o'clock, please. Thank you.